Hello, and welcome to the Permaculture Vine podcast. Live here with Permaculture Canada. It's episode 120. I'm your host, Cormac Harkin, and we're joined by Permaculture Canada, Lindsay and Humon. Welcome, guys.
Hello. How's it going? I've got stream key issues here.
We've just lost. Sorry, guys, have a few technical issues here. We can wait till people come on anyway. I think you've lost your Instagram feed there.
Yeah, I'm reconnecting it. We'll see.
Yeah, that's it. Back up now. You're live again.
Oh, good. Wonderful. Well, if it says it's going live for you, then I guess it's going live for me.
Let's hope so. How's things anyway?
Great. Back in Canada?
Yeah, we've been back here for what, 3 or 4 days?
Yeah, 3 days.
It feels like a lot more with the amount of stuff we have to get done.
It's been a little long. Came home to a foot of snow falling today. So winter is in full bore here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, have you had time to reflect at your holiday? But 3 days isn't really enough.
Yeah, well, we did have a bit of a transition. Had a bit of a transition. We stopped in Toronto on the way, so we did get a little bit acclimatized while we were there. We were there for a week, so I could get a U.S. visa, so I can continue my work down there.
How'd that go?
I was approved.
Hey.
So that's great. At a time when a lot of people are having to leave, that I was able to get in was kind of a miracle, and I'm grateful for it because we have a lot of great community projects down there, and just lots of interest in what we do. So that is a very good thing.
Happy days.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to hear how the trip went. Do you want to just tell us how it went? And you started in, where'd you start?
Started in Puerto Vallarta. So we have some friends that live down there, and we visit them. And one thing led to the next, and we ended up getting land just outside of Puerto Vallarta by some agua thermales, some hot springs that are there. We're going to start a community project with some friends that we have. So that was kind of an unexpected, really quick beginning to our trip. But, when things were flowing very easily for us and really well, we have some local friends that are also involved in the project. Even the realtor that we were working with has invested for his family as well. So we're all aligned in the fact that we want to grow food, and we want to have an oasis type space where we can have temazcal, like sweat lodge, and just be close to some healing waters. So that was exciting. We started there. Why don't you tell us where we went next? Oh, sorry.
Let's take that. We have an hour here, so there's plenty of time. So is that Puerto Vallarta? Where's that? Mexico?
Yeah.
It's on the west side in the state of Jalisco, just south of Baja, California. And I think there's 2 other states that I'm missing there. We're right beside Nayarit. We're kind of just beside the border. Something synchronistic for me is that I had just started school for my biotecture, which I just finished my final exam yesterday. So
congratulations.
My first step in that education. So buying this land just as I was beginning school was good for me to really map out how big of a plot and what I can do, because ideally these houses are all going to have microclimate gardens built inside of them. And we were quite inspired by the butterfly garden close by. And also, what was that other garden?
It's Jardin. It was basically a Puerto Vallarta botanical garden.
Yeah, so we're really interested in doing botanical garden style work on the properties that we're working on. And as we build them up and see how these climates are going, we're looking to put those out to people who are interested in an already ready to go furnished place that's growing everything of the local area, so we can move on to the next project, which here's a few more of them down the road we'll tell you as we go across our adventure.
So what? So you buy the land, implement the design on it. with different themes and then sell the land and move on?
That's the idea for the other ones. This one in particular, the first one that we're getting, is more for a community hub. So we won't sell that one right away, but we have a number of different lots that we have. So one of them we're going to use to build the bodega for all of our supplies for building, and that's in a shared space. So we'll start off with one building that's a communal space so that we actually have a place to go. One of the lots is heavily treed with some really big ancient trees. So they're protected, which is why I wanted that one. So that's a place where we can drive in with an RV and be in the safety of the shade, right? And to be able to have that so that you can immediately live there and be, protected from the elements. So that's another spot. And then there's a third spot where we want to utilize that as a showcasing opportunity so that we can build an earthship there. The way that it's situated on it's a south-facing slope towards the rest of the community, it's like a flagship opportunity to be like, what is that? It's going to be an obviously strange looking house compared to what you see in Mexico with lots of breeze blocks and lots of concrete. Instead, we'll have this earthen building kind of looking over the whole development, with that idea of encouraging others to want to do the same. Because this type of development opportunity, the people that are in charge of the project management for that are interested in this type of thing. So it's a great opportunity for us to build something that can then showcase the type of homes that we want to do, but also have a central hub for, our personal friends in community that are both from Mexico and from Canada. And it'll kind of be a hub for us to meet up, because we have, especially even after this trip, so many people that are friends that are traveling, that are doing this sort of lifestyle thing, looking for this type of opportunity to live in community. So we want to be able to have spaces that, people that we trust and we know and we're developing relationships with in other countries, to also have that as a second home and to be able to go there and stay there, so that there's always somebody on the site. Is the idea, is that we have somebody who can manage the site, take care of the gardens, live there for however long they want, but then also have like multiple buildings that they could inhabit, and we could B&B them if we wanted to. And yeah, so that's the Puerto Vallarta project.
Very good.
Out on our first month.
Yeah.
What's that?
That all played out on our first month.
Yeah.
Wow, straight on the deep end. I was just going to say there, the podcast that came out yesterday, Jason Thomas, he was talking about eco villages.
Yeah.
And the agreements around eco villages, and basically the pitfalls and advantages of them. So, yeah, be good to check that out. I'm happy to connect you.
I got to check it out personally, because I was connecting with Jason. Unfortunately, we didn't go down to Costa Rica, so I didn't go down and see him. But I've already shared that video, even without watching it, because I've met so many people that want to go down there in Costa Rica specifically. So I've been sending his name out to all sorts of people all along the way, because he's quite connected to different eco villages down there. So.
Yeah, I think he actually started consulting now as well on making up agreements and stuff for eco villages as well.
Perfect.
And communities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where'd you go next then?
Yeah. So next was Zipolite, right? Hanging out on nude beaches there for 2 weeks, living outside on a mattress with a mosquito net. Very bare bones, sleeping outside basically on a covered deck, basically is what it was.
Yeah. Well, the location, we were definitely on the nicer high end of things, but it's Oaxaca. So Oaxaca's, legally speaking, the second poorest state of Mexico, although they're really rich in what they have available there. The land is amazing. Unfortunately, most of Latin America, we've seen the problem of water. People just don't seem to know or be interested in water catchment.
Yeah, storage.
So we have actually run into a group there. While we were there, we got to visit 2 older gentlemen who had basically drove an RV and a truck down and then bought some land and built their house there. So the one man, since he's single and not planning on having anybody, he has just his RV, and that's good enough for him. The thing's all built, ready to go, but he's got his gray and black water feeding out into a garden that he has going around, and he's been terracing the whole area for some time. So it wasn't until another month later in our adventure when we ran into a friend, we found there was a collective in Monzunte, the next town over, where there's a lot of things getting built. So we're looking at how we can get involved with that. But at this time, to me, it really looks like we would go down there either buying a piece of land or working on someone's bought piece of land to build a large cistern to collect water during the rainy season. So we would then have that water to use to make our adobe style building materials for the next season.
Yeah, so there's another community project we ran into. There's two actually in the Mazunte area. And one of them, it was amazing to see the person that had purchased the land that he was talking about with the RV there. His land has quadrupled in price in like 4 years, which is pretty unreal. So the specific one that we're looking at, it's on a river, probably about an hour away from the coast. So yeah, like you said, water is the top of the line, top topic when we're looking at the land. You know, what's available, where's it coming from, and how are you going to store and capture it? Because I do know other people that have purchased land in that area, and they had these grandiose ideas of planting and doing all of this, but there's no water for them to do that. So
yeah, I think a current theme we've witnessed in our adventures is a lot of people see how cheap some of this land is and it looks good geographically, so they invest in it because $10,000 here or there is not very much for a lot of people who are traveling abroad from more well-developed countries. Although once you spend some time there and you realize that there's not a lot of supplies or equipment or even a workforce to do things, a lot of these people abandon their project and then just sit and wait until the roads get better developed or a hardware store shows up in a nearby city or a town starts becoming more like a city, which some of that can take 10, 20 years. So we're seeing how we can work with very limited stuff and make very simple buildings.
yeah, having that access is really a major as well, because we did see plots of land that don't even have road access, right? They have not even I guess a dirt bike trail.
Some of it, they cut down the area to get it ready for house building. And then just the fact that they did that, there's no plants to contain the soil anymore. So the road gets washed out. And then there is no existing road because now it's just a water channel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's common that they will clear the area of all trees in these development projects, which is just horrendous. Because then, you know, there's probably this beautiful land that you see all around, and then now there's nothing for shade or anything. So yeah, the water, you can see the evidence of the water. We walked through some of these projects that were just clear cut, and even just the way that the land was cut was questionable. You know, it's like, oh, that's a landslide waiting to happen. Why would you just cut straight down on the hill? And what, you're going to build your house right beside that? Like, good luck. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of projects you have to be really cautious about in terms of investing. Fortunately, because we have friends that are well connected there, there was a lot of different people that we had interviewing the project managers, meeting the people that were actually owning the land, drafting up the drawings, all of that, all along the way. So it wasn't a rush decision, and I'm glad that we had that support, because I wouldn't recommend somebody just going in there, investing in a, you know, one of these manzanas or one of these projects without having that sort of support or legal backing or somebody that they can actually run the documents to and say, you know, is this a legitimate project that I'm investing in? Because it's definitely not always that way. So.
Well, and some of these projects, you can't invest in them unless you have somebody who is a local. So land purchases we're looking at, where they're at in development right now, I, as a Canadian citizen, cannot own them until all of it's completely developed. Then it changes what the laws are, and then people from other countries can come in and buy it. So they're trying to maintain a certain level of locality, maintaining their land and their space. Because we've seen in a lot of countries where you don't do that, how quickly another country can just move in and it's no longer the locals living there anymore.
Yeah, and we saw that in San Pancho. There was petitioning, people with streets getting signatures against development in San Pancho, which is a coastal town. It's very bohemian, kind of hippie surfer town, and it didn't have any big resorts, and they don't want that. And the water infrastructure can't handle that. And that's a thing that's happening all over Mexico, is that they've got this water infrastructure, but it's already pushed to its brink. And then people are coming in and wanting to put these giant resorts right on the waterfront. And how are they even going to manage the water? They don't even know how it's going to happen. So,
yeah,
anyway.
it's hard. Yeah, it's just hard to imagine. Even now that the troubled times we're having, the inflation, price increases, that these developments are still happening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I think so there's and then as well, I think it was Rob Avis was on chatting about his program Regen Tracker, and they're able to look at these properties and measure sunlight and stuff. Is that something you were doing at one stage as well, Lindsay? Helping people purchase land a couple of years ago?
Yeah, we're doing that still actively.
You still do?
Yeah. We do have to be cautious because we're not, land developers. So we can make suggestions and we can make assessments, but it's not essentially what a real estate person would do. But yeah, that's definitely something that we do because people want to buy land for their community project or even just for themselves. And if they're looking at 3 pieces of land, we can give them an assessment of, this is a good idea or this is not a good idea, but not in a legal binding way where we're stamping and saying you must buy this one and this is why.
Yeah.
So it comes with that fine print sort of thing. So yeah, it's definitely part of what we do. But we got down to Mazunte, so let's keep going. Then we went to San Cristobal in Chiapas.
Yeah, that was that pretty much wraps up our December. End of December is when we got to Chiapas. We enjoyed New Year's there. That area is really intriguing. I don't know about you, but when I hear Mexico, I think of like a hot climate. But the high mountain slopes really bring in cold weather. When we got there, I think it was 2 or 3 in the morning, and it was pouring rain, and it was 2 Celsius outside, which the locals let us know it's the lowest it's ever been there. I guess we just were unlucky in that way to get the coldest weather there. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting projects there too. Our friends that are working with us in Puerto Vallarta already own land in Chiapas. And this is one of those things where when you're investing somewhere, it's good to know about what's going on locally. There was a gang there. I can't remember which cartel it was. It might have been the Freedom Boys. But they were basically moving around in the area and just trying to see what kind of value they could get from people. And that kind of stopped one of those community projects from moving forward. Everyone who was there said they want to come back at some point, but they're waiting until they don't feel threatened by people with guns. So,
yeah,
one of those difficult things you have to deal with in the Wild West, or the Wild South, or the wild middle of the planet.
Yeah, I think that was always I remember friends, acquaintances I knew had land in Nicaragua. This was like 20, over 20, nearly 25 years ago. And I always wondered, well, if you go there to a place that you're not familiar with and you build all this up and then someday somebody just knocks your door and says, right, see you later, I'm taking it.
Yeah, we heard of a bit of that for sure. Well, a number of projects. I won't name any names, but you have a lot of land. You get going, and then all of a sudden your life is threatened. You don't really want to stick around. So makes sense.
Yeah. And then things as well. I know like COVID happened, and then people get very insular very quickly.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're looking around at right how many mouths we've got to feed, and if you stick out, it's a problem as well.
Right? Yeah. But it was really cool to see our friend Venus down there. He has a lot of community. He's a community builder. And it was really nice to see him do what he had done up here in Calgary down there. Lots of spiritual sort of medicine music and sweat lodge. And yeah, they had a really good community of people and a community house that we stayed in. It was like a 6 or more bedroom, a huge house.
It was pretty much a castle.
Yeah. And we stayed in a room there, and there's a rooftop patio and a shared kitchen. So it's like living in community. Most of the people were German there at the time. There's people that were pregnant and having babies, and yeah, it was really cool. And we spent the time with the whole German family for New Year's, I guess that was.
Yeah. That for me, again, I was doing school this entire adventure, so the kind of schooling I'm doing really reminds me of permaculture, because I'm trying to create a self-sustainable housing scenario where you manage everything within your space. There's no external grid that you have to tap into for your own sovereignty. And just witnessing how the housing was built in San Cristobal was kind of wild. A lot of Mexico is really hot, so the houses are built in a way where there's an amount of coolness that stays in the house. Although all of the houses in San Cristobal were built the same way. So up in that high of an elevation, it would make more sense to have some southern facing windows and work on solar gain instead of having to heat your house with wood fire or electricity, because all of those houses were very cold because they were built the same way other houses were to try and maintain being cold. But when you're in a cold climate, you really don't want to be that cold.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So it's like, where do we go after San Cristobal? Down to Lake Atitlan.
Which was only slightly warmer.
Yeah. It's kind of known as forever spring there. So it's like warm in the day, like 20, 25 degrees, and then cool at night, like 12 degrees.
That's nice.
Yeah. Some people just love that all year round. Around 3 o'clock every day, the pressure of the clouds and the sun, and we just get this massive wind coming off the lake and coming from the back and the volcanoes, and this whirl of dust. It was pretty much like a hay fever situation for both of us. It was like forever spring, really kind of knocked us out a little bit. But yeah, we went and taught the PDC there with Neil at his farm and met a slew of wonderful people. Like really got to work with a whole bunch of Irish people, which was really cool. We've started a castle searching group with our Irish pals up there because of the opportunities you have there for renovating castles. Started a little group, but yeah, the PDC was great. It was a real experiment for sure. We learned a lot about the nature of doing something like that. I was really happy to witness the Mayan lands firsthand and be able to walk around kind of in their backcountry and see the evidence of the Mayan cultures and see the evidence of these planted food forests from ancient people, because it's all over there. And you can just walk everywhere. There's no sidewalks really, of course, really, like there's maybe one road in Sununa. But for the most part, it's walking trails that just kind of jut out into the mountainside. And that's how people get to their houses, and they have acreages and they're all built up, hidden up there in the trees. You'd never know it, but all only accessible by foot, which is really interesting and really like this, right? Just vertical, straight uphill, massive views. But Yeah, we learned a lot from the agroforestry fellow that they had teaching there, and then
Silver.
and then we had the fungal academy down the street. We got to meet Jasper and Michelle from Love Probiotics, and
There was the apothecary people too.
yeah, there's the herbalism school out there we were able to go see. Yeah, they have a lot of community really close by, and everybody's running retreats and education out there around that same time. So it's nice. It was nice to see a lot of cross promotion, a lot of people moving between the different retreat centers.
Yeah, so for those who don't know about Neil's farm, they have a wee eco village type thing there, don't they? They each own a wee pocket of land and they do separate things, is it?
Yeah, like with Neil's farm, he's more, I think, focused towards internship. So it's a really interesting business model that he's kind of going for. I think that where you're blending the permaculture education with actual hands-on experience, but able to house and feed the people as well. So it's not just, you go and take a course. It's like you take a course, but you also have a hand in implementing projects, so that you're working on the projects that they're implementing there on his farm, and I could even potentially see him broadening that to the other further contracts that they have, because we were able to weave in some of that while we were there, where they had a contract and they were at the point where they had to find the topography of the land. We actually laid the lines with lime and took drone photography of it to then create maps. And that may not make a lot of sense for the audience at hand, but it was nice to be able to take a practical application of permaculture, teach it to people, apply it to a project, and then show it in how it applies to design. So I think that's kind of the angle that he's going for. It's not necessarily like an eco community. It's like he's got his land. They have enough lodging for a number of people. And
all right, so he has land. These next door neighbors, they have land. It's like the impression I got, it was just like 3 or 4 different people, like a group of their own land, and they all work together and help each other.
Yeah, they're all on their own separate land, and they all kind of have their own thing going on. So there's like a collaborative effort in calling people in just for specific days of the education. But those people themselves also had really busy schedules, right? Because this is high time in Guatemala there for January, February, for a lot of people coming and doing retreats. So it was like they all had their own thing going, but could, donate a day over here to that specific, Michelle came over from Love Probiotics, but her schedule was fully jacked the whole time, right? So yeah, I could see how they could, and that is something that interested me about that, is like, how could they, or would they be even interested in creating a sort of calendar where there maybe was a different type of overlap or some sort of cohesive thing? Because I noticed that people would stay longer, right? They would stay 2 weeks longer than their education, and then they would hop over to another one, So it was interesting to witness it from a tourist perspective of what they were exposed to and what the opportunities that they had for all these different learning opportunities. But there's no necessarily web connecting them, like an overarching web that a tourist or a visitor could go to and be like, oh,
full package deal.
Full package deal. Yeah, I could go here, and then I could go here, and then I could go here. Like, if they could work that together. I don't know if they're interested in doing that sort of thing.
They're pretty competitive there at
this time. Competitive, yeah.
Also, geographically, it's a really nice spot in that it's the top of a massive volcano. I think it quit being active, 60,000 years ago? But yeah, the lake itself is under what used to be a super volcano. And before that lake really formed into something, there was an island in the middle that a Mayan culture lived on. Divers actually just recently this year, in the last month or two, found that village where these people lived on before it got sunk in the last 10,000 years by water to the point where the lake is at now. And now people live on the mountainsides around this lake. So that in itself adds this kind of extra magic that's hard to describe other than going there and seeing it yourself.
Great stuff. Was that your first experience of a PDC?
No. Oh, like teaching all over
humans?
there? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, I'd say it was like my third experience with PDC. Yeah.
Great stuff.
He's gonna keep running into that.
What's that?
He's gonna keep running into that.
And she's gonna keep ending up on construction sites for self-sustainable housing.
Yeah. But yeah, so after Lake Atitlan, we hopped on a shuttle. We went down to San Salvador. We only spent a few days there. Yeah, they're doing really well down there. We were in Guatemala City first, of course.
Yeah.
When we were supposedly not supposed to be there as tourists. Yeah, we were in Zone 1 and the flags at half mast, and everyone was kind of looking at us like, what are you doing here where we were walking? And then we found out, of course, Canadian had a travel ban. Do not go to Guatemala City, especially Zone 1 or whatever where we were. But, it was all good for us. And there was some protests in the streets.
Most of our adventure, we spend a lot of time in places where we are the only outsider people. So some of the places that we go where there's a huge diversity of the world, we're kind of there for a moment until we go to the next spot. So it's really tricky for us to know if we're going towards a dangerous spot or not.
Yeah. So El Salvador, is that the place you can buy your passport for a Bitcoin?
Probably, yeah. They're really Bitcoin forward over there. Google's got an office over there in San Salvador. Skyscraper. It was kind of an interesting looking building. We're always visiting the botanical gardens, right? Because I'm always interested in the plant knowledge and seeing what they're doing. And there's a lot of living roof and water catchment information in their botanical gardens, which was cool.
What was that cool hamster cat capybara?
Oh, I don't know what that creature's called.
Yeah, I could follow that thing around all day.
Yeah, they're so cool creatures. That's for sure.
That's a really cool thing for us. I've spent a fair amount of time working on farms and garden spaces. I know Lindsay has too. Most of my experience is here in North America. Specifically in British Columbia, over in the Shuswap and the Kootenays. So I'm really used to this very seasonal dependent kind of growth. So going to these places where nature's so diversely different, there's mainly just two seasons in a lot of these places, is like wet season and dry season. And then the dry season, a lot of stuff really looks like it's dead, but the moment it gets some water, it comes right back to life. Like the same day that it's raining, the thing goes green, even though it looks dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so San Salvador was a really short visit, and then we hopped on a bus, went through Honduras, and over to Nicaragua, where we spent a month on Ometepe, which is an island with two volcanoes, one that's active and one that has a lake in it. It's this beautiful duality between the fire and water, and lots of permaculture farms there, which is really nice to see. Some of them were no longer active, but at one time there was a prominent permaculture educator there. So there was a lot of people going there to do the PDC. One person we connected with, Cristiano from Zopalote Permaculture Farm. I have an interview with him on our YouTube channel if you want to check that out. But we went to a place there called The Gathering. He was having a festival. The nice thing about this community that he's growing there is they're very much get back to the old ways. So there's no phones allowed at The Gathering.
No electricity. No
electricity, like no electronic music or anything like that. It was all guitars and drums and no people. You're not taking your phone out to do pictures or anything like that. And even the schedule for the event, you had to walk up there to see it each day.
They would write
the
it
day
out in the
of.
morning.
They would write it out in the morning, and you'd have to go up there to see it. So you actually like had to get yourself present in the site to then decide, what you wanted to take part in. But there was a lot of magic to those simple things that they put in place like that. And even with the food, right? There was a food circle, they called it. Everybody bang the drums like food circle, and everybody comes around the fire. Somebody sings a song or does an offering of whatever they want, right? It's very community driven, where you can just kind of take part in however you want to. And they fed us, part of the ticket sales was that we were fed all the food from that farm, the rice and beans and salad and the turmeric and the ginger and the kimchi. And they fed us 3 meals a day there as part of that. And it was just really nice to, go up with your coconut bowl and you could carve your own spoon out of the bamboo and just eat together. It was really sweet to sit around the fire and learn about all the different tobacco medicines that they make and how they're made, and lots of sharing about ceremony and ways that they're prepared. And
the local indigenous people, the Mosquito people, have a cool story. They used to live further north, maybe Honduras or even further from there. And they had a vision quest that showed them they needed to go south to find their piece of paradise. And that happened to be Ometepe. And I think the reason why this spot is such a permaculture hub is because during the dry season, it's still very green. It's the biggest freshwater lake in Latin America. So every day the sun creates these cloud forms that end up hitting the volcano mountains and coming back down in some precipitation. So the humidity always maintained this beautiful greenness. In fact, once you leave the island and you go back to the mainland, you see a major difference. So a lot of stuff out there is drying out. There's not rain or clouds hitting. It's really got a nice microclimate that just promotes the growth of everything consistently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just tropical fruits everywhere. The land we were staying on had, it was 2 acres of fruit that had been planted 25 years ago, sapote and almonds and bananas and coconuts and
mangoes.
Such a diversity of food, and one after another. So it's not like you have this flush like here in Canada. We have what seems to be this bounty. Yeah, we do have strawberries come and these come later, but for the most part, we have to wait till fall for our bounty of this massive, right? But there, it's just like each month is a new thing, or every few weeks there's a new thing. So it's just a beautiful, fresh food oasis. And I did an interview with my friend Danielle that owns a raw food cooking school. That's not cooking, a raw foodie school. But she's been there for 8 years doing that. She's doing really well for herself. So she's probably going to be opening up her own retreat center to teach that and house people, and they can come and learn how to prepare raw food. So I'll be posting that on our YouTube channel here once I get, I'm just getting back to my desk. So I have a lot of things to catch up on for sure there. But yeah, Nicaragua in a nutshell, beautiful. We went to the retreat center as well. La Viarte, is it? La Viarte, just north of San Juan del Sur. So we might have an opportunity there to be offering some retreat space or education there in the future. Nicaragua is great. It's definitely less expensive than Costa Rica. I find there's a big draw towards Costa Rica, but I don't know if it has the charm that Nicaragua does. So I highly recommend going to Ometepe for anybody.
There is
Very
some
reasonable.
political issues there, but it's also kind of, if you don't get in their face about it, they don't really bother you. So permaculture does not seem to be on their list of things that bothers them.
Yeah.
So we were fine in that sense.
And lots of opportunity there. Of course, we were looking at land, so we saw 3-bedroom houses that could be a B&B right away for $115,000. And it's an organic farm, what used to be an organic farm, just absolutely outstanding. And the fact that they have the fresh water, that was in part from a Canadian company that helped install their municipal water. But yeah, one of the places in Latin America where you could just drink out of the tap, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it was literally a lake at the top of the volcano is the reservoir.
Yeah.
So it was like a little miniature Lake Atitlan was providing everyone with their drinking water. There's very few places in Latin America where you can drink the tap water and really enjoy it and feel safe that you're enjoying it.
Yeah. Wouldn't want to drink out of Lake Atitlan.
No.
So then after Nicaragua, we went down to Panama. Yeah, we were in Panama City. Now, Panama, the history of Panama is phenomenal. I feel like we don't really get educated too much about the isthmus. Maybe we did, and I was just too young, but how, Panama is this connection between the North and the South continents, and how the animals moved across, and how the people, right? This hub of people there. There's so much deep, rich history about that. So we had an opportunity to go to many of the museums and learn about that, and also meet the people firsthand at tribal gathering we went to in Colón, which is on the other side of the coast from Panama City. We spent 3 weeks there at tribal gathering. I was able to do a talk on permaculture to like a lot of the people that were there from different indigenous tribes. We were able to hear about all their issues, which was a little disheartening because it was like, I thought, oh, permaculture, we can have some solutions, and we do. But some of the problems there, they're so great. They're so systemic, and they're horrendous, right? Treatment of people by corporations and just awful, right? So the tribal gathering is a really interesting place where the tribes from all over Central America and South America and North America can all come and share the issues with each other, and also share that with, anybody who's attending the festival as well. So, I'd love to do further work there in terms of bringing practical applications of permaculture to give hands-on experience that can traverse borders, right? Like how can you give simple water remediation techniques to people to implement on their land, no matter what their climate is? So I was really inspired to start visioning that, whether I present that there or somewhere else, just to put that out into the ethers of like, this needs to happen. We need to like come up with some really basic things that people can take home with them outside of just, here's permaculture, this is what we do, these are the principles, these are the ethics, this is what it looks like, and how can you apply this to your lifestyle? But actually give hands-on things that they can tangibly implement when they go home, because there's a big need for that. A lot of their water is at risk, let alone just going home being a risk, right? So, things that we could do when I think about the problem is the solution. Man, did that mess with my head there. Because I was like, these problems, how do we make the problem a solution when Coca-Cola is kicking people out of their homes and imprisoning their sons and their fathers and not letting the women get to them? Like, how can permaculture help that, right? So I'd love to hear that. But the problem is the solution. The best thing I come up with there is boycott the products, right?
That's what I was thinking. Don't drink
right?
Coke.
Don't drink Coke, right? And then it's all these companies too. It's not just that they own a multitude of companies. So it's like, do your research and know who you're supporting when you are purchasing things, because it's like that trickle up.
Well, it's also kind of become really complicated in that way. For me, I look at permaculture, and the biggest thing I get out of permaculture is the microclimates. You're really able to build something self-sustainable that can work on itself without needing too much work involved from outside sources, because you've built this little microclimate that works on itself. And for some reason, our culture as a whole, sometime in the 80s or 90s, decided that every business needed to be bought out and become a massive conglomerate. And globally, we're kind of looking at a handful of businesses that own everything. We were actually just in a conversation with someone who was stating there's only 3 companies that own all of the building supplies of the North American area. And that's, it's kind of hard to focus on seeing microclimates grow and flourish when we only have this macro overlord that says yes or no. Again, a lot of the failures I've seen in these things is because we have such massive things trying to happen when it's really all of these miniature things that build culture and help things grow. I haven't seen a monocrop that's been long-term successful at what it's doing. I'd bet money on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go on.
No, I'm just it's getting people out of the get up, go to the job, buy Coke, buy whatever they're told on the TV.
Yeah.
And then it's that cultural enrichment, get them away from that, and then I think things can change. But as long as people are in that rat race that they have no time to think about anything, they're just going to keep buying these products just because at the end of the day they just want to feed themselves and their children, and a lot of people don't have the luxury of thinking these ways of boycotting Coke. Like most people don't care, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I think there's a critical mass that I think Jeff Lawton talks about. There's a critical mass that can be released. So if more people start doing it, practical stuff on the ground, like you say, practical solutions, then that tips it towards shift.
Just bite-sized, right?
Yeah.
Well, and then to kind of wrap up our journey coming back to Canada and what we're witnessing here, like we've only been gone for 4 months. And in that 4 months, because we spent so much time traveling and learning, we were fully enveloped into the spaces that we were in. So we really didn't have much time to check in back home to see anything that's going on. And the political sphere of what's happening here, it's really disheartening and dampening. When we go to hang out with people, I almost feel like the conversations I'm having with them is taxed by the government because we talk about the government in our conversation. I'm having a genuine person-to-person conversation. Why is the government suddenly involved?
Yeah.
And it's just trying to figure out why have these systems gotten this complex and why are they continuing to get more complex? Because last time I was in this country, it was easier to do the things that I'm trying to do right now. And I'm feeling a genuine struggle that I wasn't feeling before. And it puts me in a position where I want to escape or run away or build this other future somewhere else. But I really don't want to ditch any part of the world. I want the whole world to jump on the success train and be happy with each other. And I'm not really seeing it as a whole, but I also haven't been paying attention to everything. The news sure doesn't want you to look at the good stuff lately, though.
So I stopped watching the news altogether.
Right.
To me, there's two things. What's that?
It makes you happier to not watch it.
Well, I am aware of what's happening in the world, but I don't give it any time because it's a waste of time because I can't affect it. And then it's I guess the government can only get bigger because they only write new laws, so things are restrictive. Like they're trying to ban wood stoves here now, trying to ban burning wood. So what you have to buy your coal off the government or so you're becoming government dependent. So there's all these things that are coming in, and then it's people aren't motivated to make the right choice. They'll go for the cheaper choice. So it's to me, it's the problems are based on motivation. If you're motivated to make the right decision, to benefit yourself, you'll make the right decision. But the way that things are set up, like these corporations are rewarded for that bad behavior because they increase their shareholder value. So they're legally obliged to increase shareholder value. So that's their motivation. So they're not judged. They're just judged on that shareholder value. They're not judged on the other 7 forms of capital, cultural capital. No, they can destroy stuff. It doesn't matter. and then on an individual basis, then as well, things are just getting tougher.
Mm-hmm.
That's my 2 cents worth.
Carbon tax just went up today or yesterday here in Alberta.
What's
and
that?
Like carbon tax. We have a carbon tax here in Alberta, and it just went
up
today. And
biggest
even our
corn
diesel,
ever.
diesel's like twice as much as it was before we left.
Yeah, so it's all right. It's all right for you to pollute as long as you can afford it. That's the way I look at taxes. That's the way I look at when they like under just paid parking places. It's like, well, it's okay for you. You can pay for it, so you're allowed to. So it's not about the planet. It's about getting the money off you.
Yeah. So it's really encouraging, you know, after those travels that we had. Of course, we can't wait to go back because we've seen a simpler lifestyle. We've seen that we can do our lives there with less stress and less just the overtone of helplessness of these systems. And, you know, maybe we're blind to it because we're there for such a short time, because I understand systemically there's problems everywhere you go, but there's a certain amount of being able to just live very simply in a climate where you don't have to wear 4 coats to go outside and you can actually grow food all year round, which is really what inspires me in the first place to try to get out of here in the winters, because I just feel like I need to be somewhere where I can grow food all year round and not depend on the grocery store and putting gas in my car to get there and then get taxed and yada, 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 you know? So.
Yeah, for me personally, I am finding myself wanting to work more in Latin American society, because here in Canada, if I want to build the same kind of self-sustainable housing, there's a certain level of legislation that has been put into place where I can only use the materials they've allotted me that are provided, and that creates a large cost for me in order to get something done. So something that I could build in Latin America for, say, $10,000 to $50,000, which would be a reasonable space to live in, I would be looking at spending $200,000 to $300,000 here to do the same thing. So for me personally, with the kind of job that I'm doing, which is very intense and a lot of labor, and I'm very tired after 6 months, I can afford to build a house in Mexico this year. Whereas in Canada, I'm looking at 6 or 7 years of just working, maybe even an extra year or two, because I've had to pay my rent for where I'm living. I've had to pay all of my groceries and my taxes. So realistically, 9 years of working here, I can then build a house. Like that's just because of legislation. They don't let you do experimental things here like they do down in Latin America. That's a big cookie for me to chew on.
Yeah. No, it drives me mental. rules, and it's all about money making. And it's the what I call the duplicitness of it. Ooh. It's like saying, yes, we're doing this because we're worried about your safety. We're worried about your you have to meet code, but here, buy this stuff, and by the way, it costs a fortune, and we get 40% or 50% cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank goodness nature doesn't do that to us.
No. I think too, it was Colin was on here too. He went to Uganda, and he was basically saying that people are simpler lives, happier lives. They're all happy, but the press here, you're made to believe here that these people are living in absolute squalor, whereas they're living a simpler life and they're happier.
Yeah.
And who's got it right? Us through all these things and responsibilities, or there's two sides of the coin.
Yeah, and really it's motivating for me to consider that, and for us to keep going on this. You know, next time we're gonna go back to Mexico, of course, but then go down to Brazil. So I'd still I would love to see South America, firsthand, right? To get yourself in these places, because that's how you get opportunity as well. Because all the way along those travels, there's so much opportunity for me to tap into if I want to. And I could completely, go another way if I wanted to. Panama has surf and turf grass downtown. In their downtown core, plastic grass. But at the same time, yes, at the same time, their walkway on the causeway by the water is an example of every fruit tree. Right? So they have the potential. They have the biggest issue there is their water is leaking. So they have beautiful water pouring out of pipes everywhere. Clean, wonderful water, just pipes bursting everywhere. So it's just running constantly all over the place.
Yeah, 40% of their water loss is just from people not repairing these pipes.
Just from leaks.
And we visibly see them as we're walking around.
And it's crystal clear, beautiful water. Just
some people try to concrete over it, but because it's leaking water,
they do.
It just continues to leak.
They're just like, oh, just cover that up.
That'll work for 2 weeks.
But then there's also, full buildings with the living wall, facade, waterfall, beautiful tropical plants. So there's tons of opportunity, I think, in Panama to do wonderful work with edible gardens and public spaces. No problem. They've got the money, they've got the space, they've got the climate, they've got the water. But there's nobody out there really doing that kind of thing, from what I could see. So I see a huge opportunity in Panama City, and it's just a great place in general, just the mix of the old city and the new city, and the diversity of cultures and people, and the way that they treat each other too. As a minority, I'll say, walking through Central America, I feel like I was treated the best in Panama. Everybody just kind of welcomed you and was friends with you. We were welcomed we're both musicians, so we were welcomed into that scene right away, right off the bat. Hip hop artists and dancers and club owners just welcomed us in. We were able to play a show as our band, while we were down there very quickly. So that was another nice thing about the connectivity and the ease at which that happened. And we're always kind of looking for that in our travels. How is this flowing for us? Is this a good place? Should we invest more time here? Should we look into community projects here? Because ultimately we want to have a lot of these and, be regenerating land as we go. And then, reselling them or helping people with communities, redesigning these spaces, making them livable spaces where people can live off the land in sustainable and regenerative housing, but also have that opportunity to move around themselves, right? So it's a different model of living that goes with, I think, a new model lifestyle, where we're not all 9-to-5ers. It's lots of digital nomads or people that have this ability to both do life and work and travel all at the same time and contribute. Right? And take part and contribute and help with this restoration work of the land, because the integrity of their heart wants to do this, wants to live off the land, and wants to have a hand in doing the good work of maintaining and regenerating all these lands. That's our vision.
Great stuff. Guys, that was really good to hear about that. If anybody's interested, we have a community over in school for Vine Permaculture. I'll put the link in the description. And if anybody wants to get in touch with Lindsay, it's permaculturecanada.world.
Yeah.
Yep. Any final thoughts, guys?
We have a new abuela who made that skirt here. I just want to give a shout out to our abuela in Peru, and we look forward to seeing you, Marion.
Great stuff. Guys, that's been the Permaculture Vine podcast, and we'll see you all soon. Cheers.